Dr. Joe Palsa is going to, K3WRY is going to be running this session. He's a PhD from Virginia Tech, former VP of Clary Corporation, a government communications and power equipment manufacturer for the U.S. military and numerous other countries around the world. Starting his third term as the ARRL Virginia Section Manager. He's a member of the Homeland Security Shares, also known as Shared Resources Communications Program, and several other DHS and FEMA programs. He's a member of the Virginia Governor's State Interoperability Emergency Communications Committee. Dr. Joe, as he's affectionately known here in the greater Richmond area, is well known by all of the amateur radio clubs, MCOM contesting, and DXers both locally, regionally, and nationally. He's very much the bulwark of amateur radio in Central Virginia, particularly in the area of emergency communications. He's also a very nice guy, ready to lend a hand with advice, a piece of equipment, or his valuable time to both seasoned and novice hands alike.
Oh, good morning. Well, many of you know me. Some of you might not know me, but you might have heard of me. But that's only because I make a loud voice and, you know, talk to a lot of people and aggravate some other people and all that sort of good stuff. But the job really here is one of love. As the young man said here, you know, I've been in the commercial sector for over 50 years, been a ham for over 50 years, and got interested in it when I had an uncle who was in the Korean War, and he was allergic to wool. So when he got drafted, guess where they sent him? Alaska. Well, he was in a signal corps because of the interest he had, and when he came home, he started up a business. In those days, that's when they had the beginnings of television. And now we're talking, you know, the early 50s, late 40s. So it was a time when I was a little kid who was interested in various things and learned a lot from him, but that's what piqued my interest. When I started to go to college, I thought I was going to be a research chemist. Enjoyed it a lot. Did a lot of chemistry experiments, blew the windows out of my dad's garage one day, literally, and started out at undergraduate work in chemistry, chemical engineering, and after a while decided that electronics was going to be a better. So started out by finishing the undergraduate with chemical engineering and electronics, and wound up with a MBA out of Wharton for business, because I figured that was where I could make more money than I could in a lab. And when he had 5 kids, well, I was on the way to 5 kids, but you know, that was the kind of thing we needed to do. So subsequently tried for the PhD a couple of times, but because of traveling around the world so much, never could finish it. So the third time around, I finally got it. So that was just a labor of love, if you will. Doesn't make me any better than anybody else, but except I spend a lot more time writing and reading. As far as ham radio is concerned, love it. I belong to the Potomac Valley Contest Club, one of the top 2 clubs in the nation, in the world in many cases, for contesting. And they're really a great group of guys, a lot of dedication, a lot of money by the individuals put together for the multi stations, and they won every award that is possible at one time or another, and many awards more than once. So that's part of it. I belong to all 3 clubs in Richmond, again, because I love it. And like to mentor younger guys. And there's a lot of people, ladies and men, who have come up and said, gee, I'm going to get my ham license. I was interested in a ham when I was a kid or when I was younger, but I never had the time to do it. Now that I've retired, I have the time. And I applaud them for that, because it's really fantastic. And if anybody has any knowledge, the medical people always say that, you know, keep your mind going. Keep learning, keep doing, keep it active. And that's what keeps your psyche, that's what keeps your health, your physical health better too. So that's the way I do it. I'm a little slower and older, and I don't get up the towers as fast. Maybe 50 feet these days, but not the 300-footer, so that's a little different story. But anyway, ARRL, something I've been, I'm a life member, also state government liaison, and a quick comment about that. As of Friday afternoon, the most auspicious Senate Bill 260, I think it is the one who we have been most successful with. It has passed the Senate in the state of Virginia by something like 20 to 3 or whatever the number is, but by some good margin. It looks like, I say it looks like because it's not done yet, but it will be the bill that is adopted to become the new law as far as handheld devices and safe driving, because there's a lot of public perceptions and misunderstandings about communications. But we got it through to the legislators, and they've agreed with us. So we should not have a problem. But, well, you know, if you get stopped for whatever the reason is, you still may have to explain it to the cop. And just take your time and explain it to them, what the difference is. You know, we've got a mic that we talk into. The mic is not the communications device. It's not the radio. The cell phone is the radio. That's the whole thing. But anyway, that's where we are there. So as I say, I'm working on behalf of ARRL. I enjoy it. I want to help. We've had a recent meeting with VDEM, which was extremely successful. Aries was a very excellent organization for many years in Virginia. Then they hit a speed bump. That speed bump it happened to be human caused, individual persons caused. It put a bad taste in a number of people's mouths, from local agencies, you know, local police departments, fire departments, as well as state legislators, and VDEM especially. It's taken a number of years for them to understand that that's over with. It's behind us. And like anything else, you know, you can always drug up the history, but the thing is, it's at this point, it's not important to us. What's important is what's happening today and tomorrow. So as we look forward, the VDEM meeting was great. Second man in charge, plus the other directors of VDEM, and they were Red Cross people, and Virginia Defense Force, and Civil Air Patrol, and the amateurs all had a meeting, a master's meeting, and our next meeting is coming up in a couple of weeks. VDEM will be presenting to all of us what their plans are, opinions are, because they will utilize the volunteers of the various organizations in their applicable venues. So Civil Air Patrol might be called out for search and rescue and so forth, and they might not need a lot of hands to walk through the fields because they need an airplane. And we don't do airplanes. So there may be other times when they need hands to walk through the fields. And they would call the hams, they could call Virginia Defense Force, they would need bodies. But the bottom line is all the communications that's going to come through these volunteer organizations is going to be amateur radio based. Civil Air Patrol has their own frequencies, Virginia Defense Force has their own frequencies, and so forth. But they will have part of their volunteers, their members, will be amateur radio operators. And those were the people that we would be interfacing with. So the communications via from Civil Air Patrol or Defense Force or whatever it might be, will be via amateur radio, even though you're going to have these other organizations involved, as well as Aries people. So, you know, we will be called in the event that we need it, but we don't deploy. We do not go out on our own. We move when we are called, and that's the key. Everything new that's coming up with Aries, and even Bud will talk about it a little bit. new programs coming up. It now gives the ARRL and FEMA and Department of Homeland Security a database. That database is established by the New Connect program. That New Connect program is important because it tells everybody who has the availability to that program how much experience, how much training, where you're located, how many of you are, what kind of resources you have available. All those kinds of things go into the database. And therefore, they can look and say, we need 20 people over here, and we need 50 people over here, but we need them on HF over here, and we need them on VHF over here. And they will know where to look for these people. That's the key for everybody that's concerned with the way things are going in the areas. It's great. We needed it. We've needed it for a long time. It's like anybody says, you know, progress sometimes runs, sometimes walks, sometimes falls on its face. We've done all three. But now we have gotten up. We've been walking. Now we're walking a little faster. And that's the important thing for everybody to understand. It's not that you're going to, how many points can I accumulate to do this? It's the fact that your experience, your education goes into these programs. So we're looking forward to it, and John will be speaking more about it as well. And we appreciate everybody's interest, everybody's cooperation. Bring your friends, neighbors, mother-in-law, father-in-law, you know, all your kids. Hey, it's a great hobby for everybody, whether you're 6 or 60 or 600. But I think I know a couple of 600 guys. Yeah. But anyway, I appreciate everything. But Hipplesway here is our director for the Roanoke Division, which is the Carolinas and us, and someone newly elected, but been around for a number of years and part of PVRC and a number of other organizations. And we do love him dearly because of his experience, and we are surely squeezing him for everything that he knows. Mr. Budd, sir, your turn.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Well, I guess you can. Thank you much. I'll try to avoid giving the cameraman fits.